In November 2022, under 1,000 ice baths sold on Amazon, but by November 2023, sales reached about 90,000. What's going on? Those of you who follow me have seen me do this more than once, but why is it really worth it? Adding cold to your routine burns fat, boosts focus, and activates brown fat. If you also have the cognitive dissonance between not wanting to suffer for no reason and wondering if you're missing out on an important benefit, this video will clear up your doubts. Relying on this recent meta-analysis, I'll tell you what cold can and cannot do for your health, and more specifically, what has it done for mine. Keep in mind, this is just my subjective and most humble opinion, nothing more. Our first problem is that in science, talking about cold always mixes apples and oranges. A 30-second shower at 14 degrees isn't like one at 20 degrees or spending 10 minutes in a 1-degree tub. Swimming in cold water while exercising is different from doing so when sedentary. The varied interventions, protocols, and temperatures result in poor quality evidence. 3 interventions were evaluated: cold showers, cold water immersion, and ice baths, for simplicity and because it is the most widespread and accessible practice. Here we refer to the cold plunge, immersing ourselves up to the neck in cold water at 12 to 1 degrees Celsius. What cold video? I'll give you basic, intermediate, and advanced protocols to try. What happens in your body when you enter cold water? A lot happens as soon as you get in. You'll strongly activate the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, increasing cortisol and noradrenaline secretion. If you get your face wet or submerge it, the diving reflex activates simultaneously, acting as your body's extreme power-saving mode. The heart slows down abruptly, there's bradycardia to consume less oxygen, there's peripheral vasoconstriction throughout the skin, the vessels close to redirect oxygenated blood to the brain and heart. It's the opposite of what happens in the sauna, and that's why your hands and feet hurt. Is there splanchnic contraction? The spleen releases an extra reserve of oxygen-rich red blood cells into the bloodstream, acting like a backup diving tank. It's one of the few times when both a sympathetic and a parasympathetic stimulus will coexist in your body. In the next few hours, the immune system is modulated, offering lasting benefits like protection against viral infections. What about the anti-inflammatory effect? Yes, it has a systemic anti-inflammatory effect, its most known benefit. However, the initial effect is pro-inflammatory. The anti-inflammatory effect follows later, about 24 hours post-immersion. You will also trigger sustained dopamine production, improving your baseline mood. This is fascinating and counterintuitive, and I'll explain it now. How can you use this? A vagal response occurs 12 hours after exposure, so if you enter at 9 a.m., you'll have increased parasympathetic activation around 9 p.m., which usually helps you sleep. This leads to less stress and better rest. But I did promise to explain why, right? I include this intervention in my routine. Previously, I shared scientific evidence, but now I'm just sharing my opinion. For me, cold exposure is, to put it simply, a meditation by force. Meditation is something that has done me a lot of good in my life, but cold exposure is not an easy habit to maintain. It jolts you back to the present without mercy. When you're in the tub, at 2 to 4 degrees, you have 2 options: endure it or give up and get out. Your focus immediately shifts to your body, your breathing, the physical sensations, and your set time goal. Don't think about dinner plans or afternoon meetings. Are you present and surviving right now? And even though it hurts, it's beautiful. For me, it usually leads to steady mental health improvement during the day, especially when I do it in the morning. Voluntary discomfort is a strong emotional management tool, and for me, that's the main benefit of the cold. You'll feel calmer, more motivated, in a better mood, and better able to put problems in perspective. Why? We live comfortably, and cold increases our discomfort threshold. It's such a powerful stressor that things that used to irritate you, traffic, bad weather, a rude answer, after the cold, they won't affect you at all. This improvement in mood is something that's already been shown in previous evidence. The truth is, no major trials confirm this due to the earlier limitations I mentioned. So, will I stop doing something I enjoy and that makes me feel good? Is it safe simply due to a lack of clinical trials? No, I'm not going to base my entire life and decisions on clinical trials. Sometimes, like anyone, I go to the movies without considering if there's any real benefit, you know what I mean? Sometimes personal experience and subjective feelings are enough, and sometimes I also have a beer knowing there's evidence of harm. Don't get it wrong, your life isn't a clinical trial. Your life is your life, and science is only there to try to make it better. But never turn it into a disguised dogma. Of course, I don't recommend cold as something necessary either. I don't suggest it to most patients, as it's not essential for health, but for some, it's quite interesting. Now then, have you ever wondered how it's possible that something uncomfortable and painful can generate the same biochemical response of well-being, similar to that of a pleasurable drug of abuse? There's an answer. Cold boosts healthy dopamine, and that's the magic. The thermal stressor doesn't trigger the mesolimbic reward pathway like drugs, sugar, or Panettone. When you immerse yourself at 7 degrees, your body interprets it as an immediate life threat, your sympathetic nervous system is activated, and you release a massive cocktail of noradrenaline and dopamine, but not for you to enjoy it, rather to motivate you, keep you focused, so you can get out of that hostile situation as soon as possible. Is your survival drive just biology? To understand this, you need to know the opponent process theory by Solomon and Corbett, which states that the brain separates itself from euphoria and suffering, seeking homeostasis through compensatory emotions. I explain it very simply. If you take cocaine, the balance quickly tips toward pleasure, and your brain's reaction to later balance the biological effect is the opposite, to take you to pain, worse mood, withdrawal, discomfort, irritability. The opposite happens in the cold plunge. The feeling of well-being after an ice bath is your nervous system trying to relieve a pain that no longer exists, trying to bring you back to center. Again, for me, the main benefit of the cold is better mood, mental health, and motivation. But it has also been shown to reduce the subjective perception of stress 12 hours after exposure and improve sleep quality, probably because of the vagal reinforcement 12 hours after being in the cold. Regarding its use for recovery in sports context, we could sum it up by saying that it speeds up subjective recovery in the short term, pain, muscle damage, but it can worsen long-term muscle adaptations, especially hypertrophy. It's just as important to know what cold can do for you as it is to know what cold doesn't do. So look, cold won't give you a cold directly. Cold is an acute, powerful stressor that will add to the rest of the stressors in your daily life. If you haven't slept much, aren't eating enough, lost your job, and then expose yourself to the cold, you'll probably catch a cold due to some temporary immunosuppression. However, those who regularly expose themselves to the cold in good conditions have 29% fewer colds due to the strengthening of their immune system. Will it make you lose fat, the cold? No, it doesn't significantly boost your calorie burn unless you spend hours in the cold, like the Polish cold plunge champions. Yes, it activates brown fat, but adults have very little. Babies have brown fat, but you don't, right? Will it cure my depression? No. Raise testosterone? No. Cleanse toxins? Not really. Though you may feel cleaner after, cold doesn't remove toxins. How should I start if I want to try? If you're just starting out, taking cold showers for 30 weeks can be a good strategy, depending on where you live. For the cold plunge, start at 15 degrees for a few minutes. For example, I started by swimming at the beach in the Mediterranean during winter. If you're already intermediate and you've already tried a bit of cold exposure, doing a cold plunge at 10 degrees accumulating 12 minutes per week in sessions no longer than 5 minutes each can be a good strategy. And if you're someone advanced who has years of experience with the cold, doing a cold plunge with ice and water at 2 to 3 degrees accumulating 15 minutes per week in sessions no longer than 5 to 6 minutes each. You can easily adapt to this. If this video resonates with you and you want to try it, listen to my friend's story. Matthias, who lives in Mallorca, found comfort in the cold years ago after a difficult setback. It turns out that his partner and great friend died of cancer at a very young age, and also in a completely unexpected way. It's something that nobody expected, as usually happens. After trying meditation, therapy, and medication, only repeated cold exposure helped him escape that emotional hole. Like I was saying before, some people meditate and others need meditation by force. The thing is, without thinking about it, every day he would get into his bathtub, and when he got out, he had more ability to face the day and keep going. What's your experience with the cold? I'm interested. See you in the next video. Big hug. Let's keep empowering each other.